Do you have many business owners come to you and ask or talk through the conversation of, does it make sense for me to lease, or should I actually acquire a property and be my own landlord and maybe rent out some other of the units and things like that? Do you have a lot of those conversations? And if you do, what does that look like? How do you talk to people, talk through the scenario of which would make the most sense?
I've had these conversations with retailers more often with more medical users or office users. But when it does come to retail, I can give you one example off the top of my head where we look at first what is the rental rates in the area, and then what type of construction dollars you're going to put in, how much cash do you have on hand, and what is the typical availability of properties for sale in that area. So it also depends on the square footage. It's one thing to find a 1, 2, maybe 3,000 square foot building that's vacant. It's quite the challenge to find something that's 10 to 20,000 square feet that is vacant. Again, we're buying properties if you're an investor to make money. So having 10,000, 20,000 square foot vacant, unless you bought it at an extremely low basis in an appreciating area, you're not going to have that sit long to be vacant. You're going to want to put tenants in there to start making money. So with a ethnic grocer that I've worked with, last year we helped them buy a property where when we were looking at the 8 to 10,000 square foot spaces, we were doing the math. The math was around $10,000 a month. And typically these landlords were wanting 5 to 10 year terms. Well, we're doing the math. You're talking about close to $1 million on the high end you're going to be spending, and plus your build out of $200,000 to $300,000. Well, you already have cash on hand, maybe not enough to, let's say, go conventional financing, because that's also another component of it. How exactly are you going to do the financing portion? Can you do SBA? Can you do traditional financing? And how long you've been in business? That's going to be greatly influenced on where you can go for that mortgage. We went into a building that was 8,900 square feet. It sat on the market for close to 5.5 years. It also had access land, and looking at the price, right around 550, we already knew with a build out of 400 grand, your amount per square foot would actually be less than the average properties that have sold. So now you're going to have a brand new building, and your payment is going to be less by a couple $1,000s than if you were actually leasing. So that's the rough part in that example. But typically we're looking at cash on hand, what is the rental rates, and the availability of the property they're actually seeking to potentially buy or lease.